Children should be at the center of all dimensions of sustainable development.
儿童是世界可持续发展的宝贵的资源。
For the first time in global development, we have it on the Sustainable Development Agenda.
Remember SDG number 4, universal education. From pre-primary at least through secondary completion. That's our commitment for the year 2030.
The world has now been thrust into a new development era. One where ending poverty, protecting the planet, and ensuring prosperity for all are the key focus.
Where do you think your country will be in 2030? That's the wrong question. Backcasting says we know where our country must be in 2030. How do we get there starting now?
To inspire and engage. Let's inspire and engage the public.
The passionate belief that every child, everywhere, should get a fair chance in life.
Forty % of children in the developing world live in extreme poverty, and 10.5 million children under 5 die from preventable diseases every year.
Poverty is not just poor income. Health, nutrition, education, creating the conditions for psychosocial and cognitive growth, nurturing the child, and flourishing of the full human potential are as much the poverty reduction agenda as the child development agenda.
We have not been doing enough about this problem of inequality of opportunity, and we've not been focusing enough on our children. We've not been doing enough, particularly for very young children.
Child development itself is poverty reduction. It has been said many times that preventing intergenerational transfer of poverty requires attention to young child development.
From touching, seeing, hearing, playing, learning, and craves nurturing care. Stimulation is essential for the formation of the connections between the neurons in the developing brain.
What is it that we can do? We can nurture. We can buffer the stress. We can certainly try to put in conditions in place that reduces that toxic stress that can impact children negatively.
If we are able to identify those children early, and if we're able to bring in appropriate interventions that allow their own brains to develop optimally.
Better nutrition remains a key factor in terms of ensuring a better start or better life for our children.
这个留守儿童，如果是母亲不在，那么对他的营养状况有直接的影响。6000万里有多少是母亲不在？我们还没有这个数字。 但是应该说这是一个很严重的一个警号。
And we know that malnourishment in children stunts their growth, and equally, stunted brain growth has a devastating long-term impact on structure and function of the brain.
Stunting, most likely due to chronic nutrition deprivation and also poor sanitation, affects physical growth. But evidence from various research has shown us that this has an impact on the child's potential for learning and their future. Without getting appropriate interventions, a stunted growth sadly means a stunted brain and thus a stunted future.
One of the things is we want children to wash hands after going to the toilet, so all the different countries have different items, but it's measuring the same skill.
The act of hand washing is something we take for granted. We think we all know it. But when we look at studies across the world, even in developed countries like the US, we find that 4 out of 5 people, and in this case I mean adults, actually leave the public toilet without washing their hands with soap and water.
Nutrition is improving, but cognition is getting worse. So it's at this time that we really start looking at parenting practices.
To start the program, we've got to introduce the concept to the community. The community has to be aware. It should be studied. Healthy and strong, happy and smart, and safe and protected. These parents have discussed 2 sessions on healthy and strong, and today's session is going to be on happy and smart. Most of the morals and values we carry with us into life, we actually learn when we're very little. At the end of healthy and strong, they get their sheet. Because out of any parenting group, you're going to have 2 or 3 people that would make amazing early childhood caregivers.
However, that after a parenting input, moms quickly learn that, oh, I should stimulate their baby, and they immediately see the change of their baby, and you know, up goes cognition.
Sometimes we see that learning becomes more rote learning, memorization, reproduction. And how we make a shift from what we are doing now to making it a process of engagement, how children become in the center, how we develop their socio-psychological faculties, how we pay more attention to the cognitive processes. That's why there's a need for making children think, making children understand.
So what about play is actually important for children? What are the aspects of play? What do you do for play?
And the name of my story is I Went Walking. Can you say that? I went walking. Can you do your fingers like you're walking? Here we go. I went walking.
So why is reading a storybook something that makes children happy and smart?
I went walking. What did you see? What do you think it is?
In reading, you just do not read. You also try to converse and engage the children and get feedback from them. And it's easier to get feedback if the materials are context specific.
We can waddle like a duck.
而我们现在要教他们的，不是简单的这个笔画怎么画得更圆润，而是说从乡土，从他们生活，他们能够表现。
It is child-led, child-initiated. It's about active learning of the child. It needs to come from the child. That's the policy. They use teams in the curriculum. A very good idea, and it focuses on deep learning. So we have a framework for quality early childhood education.
Very often in parent-teacher meetings, usually in some countries you'll find mostly mothers are there.
And that is a gendered issue because it is considered the job of mothers or women to take care of young children. So usually they are the ones who will go, fathers may not be part of that. In other countries, because gendered issues again restrict the mobility of women, it's the fathers who will be there in the meetings. But both are equally serious examples of why we need to look at gender in a more specific way.
Fathers are valuing their multiple roles, not just as the breadwinner, but also as the children's first teacher and caregiver, and their spouse's partner. Spouses observe that their husbands now spend more quality time with their children, communicate better, and have even become more supportive of their wives' interests. And for men, they found that men are happier, healthier, and live longer by becoming engaged in caregiving and supporting the family.
We also say that a noteworthy practice is a program that can serve as an inspiring model for others.
In Indonesia, more than half of the children lives in poverty. SOS provides alternative quality care where the children in the orphanage are living with the mother in one house that consists of 10 children with various age range, and the children are brought up according to their respective faith. And also, SOS Children's Village runs an inclusive preschool where children can make a good start to their schooling.
They are engaged in disadvantaged communities in enhancing livelihood and promoting green technologies.
A total of 351 ECD centers has been established in Banglo, and around 40% of children graduated from ECD centers enrolled in grade 1. And they also focus on nutrition aspect for the children because we still have 41% of children malnourished.
We got low teacher quality. Based on the national data, less than 13% of kindergarten principals and full-time teachers had a bachelor degree.
Capacity building for those who might have the commitment and dedication for professional development. How we do it, it's in your hands.
Have a large number of teachers without training in the public sector, and private sector does account for more trained, more qualified teacher personnel.
Salary of kindergarten teacher might only, I would say, out of like 60 or 70% of primary school teachers' salary. Now we are working on, we need to have the same salary level with the primary education, so you could honestly attract the high quality teacher.
We should really be seriously thinking how we can make it better for the ECD workforce in terms of work conditions, remuneration. It's a global crime. It's not only here in China or in Asia, it's all over the world.
Driven by evidence emerging from neuroscience, economics, biological and social sciences, world leaders are now called on and are committing to understanding ECD holistically, requiring integrated inputs from all sectors and not education alone.
We must also address the many issues that are linked to child development, such as health, nutrition, education, water and sanitation, climate change and gender equality, all of which contribute to reducing poverty. That is why cross-sector collaboration is critical.
It's multi-sectoral. What that means is that it incorporates health, agriculture, water, sanitation and hygiene, as well as governance components. Governance components, what I mean by that is that national level planning, but also local level planning.
There are other ministers like health, nutrition, child protection, labor and works planning, not to mention the churches and NGOs are working together in the provinces to implement early childhood care and education.
How can we get the ministries of finance, other ministers, parliamentarians, heads of state on board? How can we promote and implement integrated ECD approaches and programs especially for the most disadvantaged children. What more can be done to engage and inform parents, grandparents and caregivers?
More has to be done for integration within the education sector itself. The point has been made that children cannot be put in silos, that growth, development and well-being are a continuum, transition from home to preschool, preschool to primary, and building the foundations of early learning in language and math, and social and emotional development have to be ensured.
We might find it easy to put them into boxes, so preschool, primary school, secondary school. But learning is a continuous activity, and thinking carefully about those transitions, I think, is extremely important, so that we are thinking about education and learning and development from the child's perspective rather than from the perspective of our own convenience.
So does any of this work at all? Does it all stop at the end of preschool and therefore has no intervention at all or no concern with what happens to these children after they come out of your wonderful preschool programs and go into miserable grade 1 classrooms? What happens then?
Our preschoolers left and went on to the big school, and the next day they came back knocking on the door saying, "We want to come back. Don't make us go to that big school." Primarily because there was such a huge difference in the expectations. So now we have a transition program where we train our primary teachers with our early childhood teachers together and looking at effective practices and best practices for young children. So we're doing that in Afghanistan, we're doing that in India, doing it a little bit in Pakistan, so we are making some headway.
Overwhelming evidence that investments in early childhood development are crucial to reduce poverty and in realising the SDGs.
How are we going to allocate funds? We're going to concentrate on the most deprived. If you can get that right, then all children will be able to deliver, to be able to learn. And I think it's very important that we do that.
We have to invest smartly, because all these pieces, nutrition, health, education, child protection, they will affect the brain of the child.
Our focus should really be on these left behind children at infancy, and that's almost got no attention in the press. And how we do that policy-wise is a very difficult thing.
But by investing in early child development, countries can ensure every child is given maximum opportunity for success and ensure a skilled labor force for the future.
You would find that high-quality early childhood programs have high rates of return. They promote skills, they create a base of opportunity, and so they expand social mobility, which is not easily quantified, but they certainly increase the earnings, the capacity and productivity of the entire economy.
Early childhood is not just a family issue. It's not just a social issue. It is the most important driver of economic success on the planet.
We have heard many times that investment in children is the best investment we can make. Then why don't we do it? We owe it to our children and ourselves not to fail and to rise up to this challenge.
The message is very clear for all of us. Getting it right at the start will benefit not only children and their parents, but societies and the world as a whole.
Let's all come together. Let's all provide the level playing field to all children and equip them with the required knowledge, with the required tools, with the required expertise, so that they can go out in the world and prove themselves.
So, in front of everybody, I want to present this token of welcome for you to join ARNEC.